Welcome to the Thursday cross-reference episode of the Selah Time to Pause podcast from Plexus Salvation Army, an online church in the UK. On Monday, in our walk through John's Gospel, we saw that Nicodemus sought to set out the parameters of his relationship with Jesus right at the start of his conversation.
Teacher, you can be my teacher. The relationship can go that far, but no further.
And how Jesus responded, saying that such boundaries cannot work, for a relationship with him requires a radical change of life, so radical that it's as if the one who chooses to follow is being born again. Today, we are looking at another similar encounter where another potential disciple tried to start his own relationship with Jesus again on his own terms. This story is a short one, only 2 verses long, and is set in Luke chapter 9.
Jesus said to another man, "Follow me." But that man said, "Sir, first let me go back and bury my father." Jesus answered, "Let the dead bury their own dead. You go and proclaim the kingdom of God."
I will stop and breathe in your presence. Just breathe. Just breathe.
It's amazing how often we can fall into the same trap when we read the Bible time and time again. The trap of assuming that the world in which the stories happened is the same as our world, that the words and phrases used there mean the same as they do now, and that the situations described had the same connotations as if they happened now. Yet a little understanding of the Jewish world at the time of Jesus can help us understand the events and stories much better. And this short story is a good case in point, where one small detail can really change the meaning of a passage of the Bible. To us reading this passage today, it might seem that he was asking to make funeral arrangements for his recently deceased father. But this request does not mean, as we might assume, that this would-be disciple is travelling with Jesus while his father's corpse is waiting at home stinking in the sun. To us, Jesus' words to this man might sound harsh, but that's because we don't understand what the man was really saying. When someone in Jesus' day said that they wanted to go bury their father, it didn't necessarily mean he was already dead. Instead, they were really saying that they wanted to stay with their father until he died, something that might be years away. This young man's father could very well have still been very much alive and well. It might have even been another decade before this man's father passed. So when Jesus asked this disciple to follow him, the disciple made excuses as to why he wasn't quite ready to give up everything and follow him. This man may have wanted to wait until he had fulfilled the oldest son's duty to bury the father, or he could have been a younger son wanting to be near the father in order to obtain an inheritance. Or perhaps he didn't want to face his father's wrath by leaving, or maybe his father truly had passed. But whatever the reason, whether it was social duty, financial security, family approval, or something else, he did not want to commit himself to Jesus yet. This man was simply looking for an excuse to avoid fully committing to becoming Jesus' disciple. Because even when the father did die, there were many traditions which required both days of preparation as well as weeks and even months of waiting between specific stages of burial. First being laid in a tomb for up to 2 years before the bare bones would be collected and then finally buried. At first it seemed that the man was trying to respect his father by burying him, but this seemingly piercing rebuke by Jesus was not aimed at this disciple's desire to care for his father, but toward the delay that would be caused, taking the disciple away from truly following. I think this is a pretty common line of thought, that we say we'll only do something for God after we finish something else up. Certainly that had been part of my own procrastination when seeking to resist responding to God's call to serve him full-time as a Salvation Army officer. But I think we all do it. We'll focus on church after we finish getting our degrees. We'll start giving freely after we get a more stable income. Or we'll go to Bible study when we're more free. At what stage of readiness do we have to be in order to do his work? The Bible is clear. God does not want your heart at a later date when you're ready. He wants us to follow him now. It can be a terrifying thought to some of us who have yet to fully accept the depth of love that Jesus has for us and the full extent of his desire that we have the fullest, most abundant life possible, that Jesus may reveal aspects of our lives that need to change, that he may call us to alter or leave behind parts of our lives that we've grown accustomed to and that we feel define us. In the same way that the man didn't want to give up the religious traditions of burial that had been ingrained in his life, so the thought of giving up parts of our lives that had become rituals in their own way make us hesitant. The idea that God could call out what makes up our normality and ask us to change or leave it behind scares us. What if we go through so much trouble and pain to change, only to feel emptier or more alone and misunderstood? This call out of comfort isn't always necessarily literal. More often than not, God calls us to change the orientation of our hearts and minds rather than our physical location. Jesus doesn't ask us to simply give things up with no rhyme or reason in order to embark on a mysterious path with no map. Yes, he may call us to leave our nets and follow him, but often it's right where we are. We don't have to go somewhere else and become someone new to follow Jesus. We live out the gospel by following him right where we are in our everyday lives. While he certainly surprises some of us with callings as missionaries or leaders, for many of us, Jesus' nudging looks more like a brightening of the darkened spots of our hearts, or a call to open up a part of ourselves that we had closed off from him. Most days, we likely don't want to step out of our comfort zones to do something unknown, or that may even seem to us at first glance to be unpleasant, for God's sake. Yet that's what Jesus is sometimes calling me and you to. We too may try to make our own excuses, things that we want to do first, things we even believe we need to do first, things that perhaps may even seem reasonable to us and to others. But the message of this very short story is simple. When Christ calls, the time is always now. The distractions and delays from doing God's work now may come in many forms. The question you need to ask yourself today is this: is there something you are prioritizing over your relationship with God? Are you holding back from being all in for Jesus? Friends, if you've heard Jesus speaking to you in the last few days, then do not delay or wait before you act. Simply respond, "Yes, Lord."
Jesus, you have called us. Come, follow me. Take up your cross, deny yourself, and live. Jesus, I am willing, though I am weak. I'll trust you, and I'll go where you lead. I will follow. will